September 1982, 12-year-old Joni Gosch Jr. disappeared while delivering newspapers in West Des Moines. One night, 15 years later, his mother claims he visited her and told her he was a victim of a paedophile ring. On September 5, 1982, Johnny woke up before sunrise and left the house with his Dachshund called Gretchen to deliver newspapers in West Des Moines, Iowa. His father would usually go with him, but John David Gosch decided to stay home that fateful Sunday morning. Around 7:45 a.m., they received a phone call from a neighbour wondering why his newspaper hadn't been delivered yet. This was odd, because by now Johnny would have done his normal route. The dog had come home on her own, but Johnny hadn't. His father started searching the neighbourhood. He would later say, "We went searching and found his little red wagon. Every single newspaper was in his wagon." Johnny and his wife Noreen spoke to the police. However, since there was no note or demand for ransom, the police just assumed that he had run away, and the law said that they could wait 72 hours to declare him missing and then begin searching for him. But inside they felt something was wrong. The police finally began looking for answers about Johnny's disappearance. They decided to ask other paperboys who had been working with Johnny that morning, and they said they had seen him talking to a man in a blue Ford Fairmount around 6 a.m. Noreen detailed what she had heard from witnesses. She said the guy shut off his engine, opened the passenger door and swung his feet out onto the curb right where the boys were assembling their newspapers. She said the man asked her son for directions and Johnny started walking away after he told him. The man pulled the door shut and started up the engine, but before he left, he reached up and flicked the dome light 3 times. Noreen believed that this was a signal to another man, who the boys then saw coming and began to follow Johnny. The story continued to change. Nobody could properly remember the details about the man or his car, so police didn't have much to follow on. His parents were constantly getting frustrated as the police weren't doing anything. They decided to make television appearances and distributed over 10,000 posters printed with their son's picture. 2 years later, another boy, 13-year-old Eugene Martin, vanished while delivering newspapers just 12 miles from where Johnny was last seen. One of Eugene's relatives worked for the local Anderson and Erickson dairy, and they asked the company if they could print photos of the boys and other missing children from the area on their milk cartons, which was spread nationwide. It was a huge effort because soon enough people were calling to report where they had seen Johnny. For years and years, people said that they had seen Johnny across the country in so many different places. In 1983, a woman in Tulsa, Oklahoma, said Johnny had run up to her in public, saying, "Please, lady, help me. My name is John David Gosch." Before she could react, 2 men had come and dragged him away. 2 years later, in July 1985, a woman in Sioux City, Iowa, received a dollar bill along with her change while paying at a grocery store. Written on the note was "I am alive." Johnny's signature was beneath, and 3 separate handwriting analyses confirmed that it was real. However, Noreen came forward herself, saying that Johnny had shown up at the house one night, 15 years after he had disappeared. In March 1997, a knock on the door woke her up at 2:30 a.m. She opened the door to see a man standing there, with Johnny, who was now 27 years old. Noreen claimed that he opened his shirt to reveal a unique birthmark, then came in and spoke to her for over an hour. She later said, "He was with another man, and I didn't know who he was. Johnny would look over to the man for approval to speak. He didn't say where he is living or where he was going." She then explained that he had told her not to tell the police because it would put their lives in danger. She says he was kidnapped and sold into a child sex trafficking ring, and a strange package was put outside her door that started to confirm her beliefs. By 1993, Noreen and John had divorced. Neither him nor the police had strong beliefs that Noreen was telling the truth about her visit from Johnny, but then the photograph sent in 2006 made them wonder whether it was all true. September, almost 24 years after his disappearance, she found an envelope with 3 photos of several boys who were all tied up, and one of them looked just like Johnny. Police were immediately concerned and investigated the photos. They believed that it wasn't him. They had investigated in Florida and were found to be from a group of friends messing around, but Noreen refused to believe that. She is convinced that her son was forced into a paedophile ring, partially due to the information she's received over the years. In 1985, a man from Michigan wrote to Noreen to say his motorcycle club had kidnapped Johnny to use as a child slave and requested a hefty ransom for his return. In 1989, a man named Paul Bonacci, who was in jail for sexually assaulting a child, told his attorney that he had also been kidnapped into a sex ring and had been forced to abduct Johnny to force him into sex work as well. Noreen even spoke with Paul and said he knew things that he could only know through speaking to Johnny, but the FBI said his story wasn't credible. Noreen was often dismissed as a grieving mother, jumping from conclusion and stories after her son's disappearance, and her determination helped ensure that missing children cases were handled with urgency. In 1984, Iowa passed the Johnny Gosch bill, which required police to investigate missing child cases immediately rather than waiting 72 hours. Till this day, he has never been found.